Victor, Ramon, Julio, Alvaro, myself, and a couple others went out and actually got a truck and loaded it up with 6 tons of asphalt, which was 2 runs to the asphalt yard, and we're able to do some pothole repairs. And got to some of the bigger potholes in the ward. We still have a lot more to do. I'm trying to, it's costly to get the truck and the asphalt, so we're trying to see if we can do it again. But it went really well, and we got some really good play out of it. We need your help. I know Fanny already has the routine down, but we need your help to make sure you let us know when the fire hydrants are open. Okay? Call here to the office or text me on my phone, or just call Victor so that we can get them shut down as soon as possible. Part of the problem is that, as you all know, when we have these fire hydrants open, the houses on the block have no pressure, have no water pressure. And that's not good for our constituents, that's not good for neighbors. And as you all know, we did participatory budgeting this year, and Victor and Amanda have the list of streets that are going to get resurfaced. So if you're interested in knowing which streets are going to get resurfaced, just let us know, and we'll let you know. Because this year, 40% of our budget, or $400,000, was voted on to be spent on street resurfacing. The rest is being spent on these other projects. Joravsky Park is getting $250,000 for light improvements. We're going to light up the baseball fields in the middle of the park, as well as the skate park. We have a relatively new skate park there that requires some additional lighting. We're going to be doing some viaduct improvements, mostly artwork at the viaducts at Central Park in Cermak and at Trumbull and Cermak. They're going to get painted up. We got some new floodlights and acorn lights that are going to be put all over the 22nd Ward. And then obviously we've got a different, also a list of blocks that are getting speed bumps. And the other thing that got funded is $240,000 for urgent sidewalk repairs. So these are the 6 projects that got funded. In addition to that, we're funding other improvements for Binham Park and for, where's the other one, Victor? Binham Park. And, sorry, yeah, me too.
Kildare?
2 other parks. What?
Ogden?
Miami?
Ogden?
Shed Park?
Oh, and yeah, Ogden and Kildare. Where we're doing a community garden. I sometimes have a brain freeze. Where we're doing a community garden. So we're spreading the resources of the many money around. And then obviously, we're going to ramp up our PB process for next year soon. So we're going to ask all for your help in identifying projects that need to get funded so that they can become ballot initiatives, and then obviously then people can vote on them. Because this year we changed up how we spend the menu money and ended up basically letting people decide. We had 17 projects that people voted on. These are the 6 that won. And then if you have any questions, feel free to talk to me, Victor, Simone, or Amanda. I think Amanda's not going to be here tonight, but we can answer some questions. And then we want to engage folks in the month of July and August on reaching out to your blocks and the areas that you're familiar with to do voter registration as we get ready for the November election. The November election is obviously terribly important because you need to keep Rauner from winning the election and need to re-elect Pat Quinn. So we need to do some voter registration. So shortly at the next IPO meeting, we're going to kick off our voter registration drive. We're going to be asking people, asking all our volunteers, asking our block club captains, asking our precinct captains to engage and doing your block. Just doing your block. So that we can register folks to vote and get them out in November. And then obviously get them ready for February, because I'm running for re-election in February of 2015, and the more people we register to vote, the better shape we'll be in. So far, any questions? Ben and I have known each other now for umpteen years.
Yeah, a long time.
Long time, umpteen years. And he is better known for his critique of City Hall politics, specifically on TIFs, because he's done a whole series of TIF exposés. and now has written about the Emanuel administration. So why don't we give him a nice warm round of applause so we can hear from Ben, and then we'll take some questions.
Used to be known as a hippie newspaper. I don't think there's anybody in this room old enough to know what a hippie is. I don't even think your alderman knows what a hippie is. But in the old days, those were the people with the long hair that listened to like Jimi Hendrix. Is there anybody in this room who even knows who Jimi Hendrix is?
Come on now, really?
Okay, so yeah, you know, young people. So as the Reader was what they called an underground newspaper, and as the hippies got older, became yuppies, the Reader became, that was their base. That was their commercial base. So they circulated in those areas where the yuppies lived, which is predominantly in the north side, Hyde Park, Chicago. So you don't really come down to this neighborhood that much. But I write about the entire city of Chicago. I feel no limitations whatsoever. If I want to write about the 22nd Ward, I'm going to come write about the 22nd Ward. Whether the people in the 22nd Ward choose to talk to me is a whole different story. So I've been writing about the 22nd Ward for a long time, believe it or not. I don't know if Rick knows this. I was in the room the night Garcia defeated, what was his name? Stemmer for committeeman in 1984. And I remember when the votes were being counted and how excited everybody was, and that was a long time ago. I don't know if Rick was in, were you in the room that day?
No, I was still in college.
You were still in college, you see, so that's how old I am. Anyway, there's no excuse for not reading the Reader if you're a political junkie, because we're on the internet now, so we don't circulate in this neighborhood. You can read everything I write on the internet, and you have no excuse. So it's your fault if you don't know who I am or the Reader is. What the Alderman didn't say, because he's too kind, is that I've been exceedingly critical of the Rahm Emanuel administration. I was critical of the Daley administration. Maybe there's just something about me that I just can't get along with anybody. But I've been very critical of both mayors. This one, perhaps even more than the previous one. We could discuss that. As I see it, we have an atrocious mismanagement of public funds in this city. Don't even know. For instance, I'll give you an example that's in the newspaper right now. The mayor has suddenly announced that, good news, people of Chicago, we're going to put a museum right next to Soldier Field. It won't cost you a dime. Well, I don't believe that. If you guys have any sense in this room, you don't believe that. So before the city council, in my humble opinion, votes to approve it, we need to go through the fine print, the details, to see exactly who's paying for what, how much it's going to cost us, because we're dead broke as a city. On one hand, they just laid off today, I don't know if you know this, about 1,000 CPS employees, including 500 teachers. So before we justify laying off 500 teachers, we should make sure that we're not spending any money building the George Lucas Museum on the lakefront. And yet, I'm disappointed to tell you that many aldermen who will eventually have to approve this deal automatically and immediately said they endorsed it. To which I say, they haven't offered up a shred of details of how much it's going to cost or what's going to be in there or anything. How can you endorse it? It's like, I'm going to buy that house across the street even if I don't know how much it costs. Who would do that? I'm just going to agree to buy a building. I'm not going to inspect the building. I'm not going to see how much comparable worth it is. I'm just going to accept whatever your offer is, sight unseen. That, to me, is comparable of what we've had in the city just in the last couple of days. So to me, that's an example of what I call atrocious mismanagement. Too much power in the hands of one man. That man in this case is Rahm Emanuel. Too much compliance on the part of the city council. Not enough standing up to Emanuel on any issue. Our schools at the top of the list. And of course, I won't even, the TIF's a whole subject I can go on and on about. I'll try to show some restraint and only do that if you have questions. So that's basically who I am. That's how I come at things. I'm an obsessive follower of Chicago politics, talk endlessly about it, and when Alderman Munoz asked me to come down here, I said, sure. Of course, I happened to be, invited him to come to a party that a friend and I throw every first Tuesday of the month, so I'm going to take this opportunity to promote that event. If you guys are looking for something fun to do, and you want to see the roles reversed, come Tuesday to the north side, 1354 West Wabansia, and watch myself, my colleague Mick Dumke, have a political discussion in a bar with Alderman Munoz and Alderman Danny Solis, right? 6:30, so it should be a lot of fun. So I told Rick I was just going to talk for a few moments, introduce myself, tell you who I am, and take the questions. Any questions you want to ask? The coming elections, something I'm passionately interested in, mayoral, aldermanic, even governors, anything you want to know. Here I am.
Run against Rom. I mean, there's speculation of people that are viable candidates, but no one's really thrown their hat in with much gumption, right? So if no one really runs, then we're just kind of stuck with it again, aren't we?
Yes, well, that would be true if nobody ran, but I do believe people will run. At the moment, there are, as far as I know, at least 2 announced candidates. And one of them, neither of them are quote-unquote viable. One is former Alderman Robert Shaw, and I don't think he's going to win. I would probably vote for him if it was one-on-one with him and Ron, but I don't think that's just me. So, but before it's all said and done, I think there's a likelihood that one of 3, if not all 3 of these candidates will run, and I will now name them. Number 1, I think Rick's city council colleague, Robert Fioretti, Alderman Robert Fioretti, the 2nd Ward. There's a good chance that he will run. As we speak, he's probably plotting his strategy. Number 2, I think there's a strong chance that Karen Lewis, who is the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, will run. She can't stand Rom almost as much as he can't stand her. And so that would be a heck of a grudge match that I, for one, would really enjoy watching. Come on, Karen. And then number 3, I still believe, even though she's playing it very cagey and foxy, I'm not going to do it. I think that, well, I guess she's an ally of Commissioner Garcia. I think Toni Preckwinkle is strongly considering running. I think that she wants to run. I think she wants to be mayor. I don't know, or I'm just me speculating, but she's like so scary because if she were to run, all those donors in the Democratic Party that are hooked up with Rom would be putting a squeeze on her. And they're probably right now. Right now, 2 things are happening. Bob Fioretti is plotting how he's going to run, and Toni Preckwinkle is on the phone with a donor who's telling her not to run. Okay, I don't literally know that that's happening, but I have a hunch something like that has happened today. So I think 1 or all 3 of those candidates will run, and I was telling Rick before this thing, all 3 can run against Ron. We have a runoff system, which I know is very confusing to a lot of Chicago voters. That means it's just like an aldermanic race. If 4 people run against Ron, so there's 5 people running, and nobody gets 50% of the vote, that means the top 2 go in a runoff. Does everybody understand that? So, come one, come all, as Harold Washington used to say. Come one, come all. So I wouldn't be surprised if before all is said and done, all 3 of those people get in the race. And then we'll see, like, if somebody drops out. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the landscape as it exists today, in my humble opinion, will not be the landscape that exists in November.